Special meeting for Thursday, October 18th, 2018, at 6:30 p.m. We'll start with roll call. Dan is absent. Bob?
Here.
Carl? Here. All right. So Brian said we should probably do a quick motion for...
to appoint a president pro tem.
Okay.
I so move, Carl, that you be president pro tem.
I'll second that. All in favor? Aye. All right. So we'll just do the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the first order of business is the public hearing on the tentative amended fiscal year 18-19 budget and appropriation ordinance. So we'll go ahead and open the hearing. Now, since we don't have Tammy here to walk through it, is there anything?
It's really an opportunity for people, you know, we handed it out in September, a month ago. It's an opportunity for people to ask questions, address questions to the board. And other than that, that's all it is.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's been posted and been out there for 30 days, so if you have any comments or questions on the tentative budget.
I have a question. Are you guys going to tell us how you reallocated the money so we kind of have an idea of where this money is coming from to pay?
Well, it's the same amount of money.
It's the same amount of money.
It's just moved to different categories. There's no other difference total-wise.
Actually, and I really was looking at it today, and I think I found the answer to it. I had to do a little bit of digging, but it's actually $133,000 more than the current, and I think that's a mistake. I think there's a $95,000 mistake.
Oh,
But it's geography. It's what we do is so a couple of things got counted twice. That's what really because we do move money from the corporate fund, which is unrestricted money, into some of the specialty funds like the ambulance fund and the liability fund. The appropriation will be against those funds, so the transfer of money into the fund doesn't need to also be appropriated, and I think it was. Because I was taken aback, because I was under the impression...
Can I ask a question?
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, Brian, I know you gave me the tentative budget last week, and I didn't bring it with me. But, okay, so after this lump sum check, not sure if Libertyville and Lake Forest received it yet. I really don't care, honestly. But, so, now that the district is not receiving money because there is no station, right?
No. District will continue to receive.
Well, in regards to
property
taxes, sorry, you're gonna get taxes.
Correct.
Correct, so that is the only income that's coming in, right? As of now.
No, because there's some other distributions that the district will, as long as a district exists, the district will continue to receive. For example, foreign fire insurance monies. The district will, because it exists, you'll continue to receive it. There's a personal property replacement tax. The district will continue to receive that.
What's that?
Huh?
What is personal?
Oh God,
Yeah,
okay.
well, I don't
You
know.
asked for it.
Okay.
Back up through like the late 1970s, the
Yeah.
state of Illinois would tax
All of
personal
us.
property. Personal property, not income tax, personal
I
property.
know.
So you own a car, you continue to own a car, you own a house, you continue, all your personal property you own, what was your value, you filed a form, you had to pay money on that.
Right.
You had to pay a tax on how a value of everything you own. Back in the late 70s, the General Assembly, God bless them and all their wisdom, decided to get rid of that. But for units of government who had, prior to the termination of that, had levied that tax, the state replacement, because of course you never get rid of a tax, you just get rid of one name and put it somewhere else. So the state replacement, the monies that replace that, are in a coffer, and that's distributed from the state coffers by way of the Illinois Municipal League, interestingly enough, because most of it is municipalities, although you have other units of government, road districts and all that, they distribute a proportionate share of the amount that's taken in of that money to all the units of government, and it's not an equal distribution. You know, by law, Chicago gets probably really the vast, a great percentage of it. But Cook County gets some, schools get some, road districts get some, and the percentage varies by each. The Illinois Department of Revenue has a website that'll tell you, here's how much is paid, but that's what it is. It's the substitute for monies that were taxed back in the late 70s prior to the repeal of that. That's why it's called the personal property replacement tax.
Okay, so how much is left now that we've made the first payment?
No payment's been made.
All right, fine, okay, tomorrow, whenever, because the budget hasn't been approved, I guess that's why the check hasn't
Correct,
been.
and just, in order to have an approved budget, this is one step, you have the hearing on it. The second thing is, it's gotta be approved, which that's not on the agenda, so it won't be approved. Once it's approved, then the budget has to be published. And then only 10 days after it's published is it in force so that monies can be spent against that.
But didn't we sign a contract with the other two fire stations saying October 1st was the first payment? So
Correct.
aren't we technically late already?
According to the terms of the payment, yes, but on the other hand, all
What
parties,
happened to the purple pill?
it won't kick in. All parties,
We signed a contract.
So?
Okay.
All parties were told that no payment would be made until probably about mid-November because of the budget process. And I'll tell you, guess who told them that? I'll give you one guess.
Who, you?
I said, it ain't, they said, the payments, and I said, you can ask for it when you want, but I said, I'm here to tell you, the law provides you ain't gonna get it until these things happen.
But why wasn't that stated? I'm sorry, it never was,
It wasn't in the contract.
it wasn't published like that.
Well, it's not in the contract, but, it's
Well,
just like
a lot of
anything
things
else.
weren't in the contract, but it's still,
If-
that wasn't published like that.
It's only a problem if somebody gripes about it. If nobody gripes about it, there's no problem.
Okay,
And they've been told they probably wouldn't be paid until mid-November
With no fine.
with no fine.
okay. So, after November, how much is in this payment? I forgot, what is it, 400 and some 70, what is it?
I
Thank you. Okay, so after that number, what are we left with?
I don't know.
Okay,
I-
are we left with substantial to pay the loan, if this place isn't sold or leased by mid-November, how long do we have without really getting money into this without taxes and whatever, because it can't be that much, I'm sorry.
The taxes don't change.
I know, but it can't be that much income coming in, paying for maintenance, paying for bills and whatever to keep this building going without income coming in. If this place doesn't get leased or sold, Brian, you know where I'm going with this. What is gonna happen? The people wanna know. And I'm not even a Norwood resident, and I'm asking these questions.
There you go. My recollection of looking at the numbers, first of all, let me begin with the disclaimer. They do not include accounting classes in law school for a reason, so I'm not an accountant.
Okay, but you're a
However-
lawyer, and I'm not gonna,
Yeah,
I
no.
can't ask him because he can't speak to me. Right.
But, okay, let me continue on here. So what happened was, the treasurer, Tammy Bryan, took the numbers they had, took the required payments, provided me the data to put in the format of an amended budget. That's what you have as the tentative budget. Now, I do some simple things, like take the amounts that you say are in here and ensure that the numbers add up, there's no changes. And that's like with Carl's, I think it's exactly what you're saying. There's really no more money being spent. It's just a matter of the allocation. There's some corporate monies that have to be transferred to special funds in order to make the numbers balance.
It is a total increase of about, what did I say,
Whatever it is.
$35,000, but it looks like $135,000 because $95,000 is counted twice.
And so that could very well be the 95,000, and that's why when I got the tentative budget, I emailed it to the trustees and said, yo, this isn't my budget, this is your budget, take a look at it.
I remember you saying that.
Please share any comments with me, and I haven't gotten any.
I mean, I didn't notice it. I was just sitting down today comparing the old, really, because I looked at it because as you know, they're very, very broad categories. It's like, nothing jumped out, but when I compared the old one to the new one, I said, wait a minute, it went up by 100 and some odd thousand, and I knew that wasn't right. So that's where we found that.
So,
again, it's just a technical error.
Right, well, and that's
we can
why,
fix that before the.
right, and that's why it's tentative, because just to do that, I mean, like I said, you get numbers, you get an Excel spreadsheet, doesn't mean it's right, and so.
Okay,
I do have a question here. I'm getting confused.
sorry.
You're saying, you did say, Brian, as long as the district is the district.
Exists, yes.
Okay, exists. Is there something going on here? Shush. She's making me crazy. Wait a minute, we still have a mortgage or a loan, excuse me. Okay, and that's how much a year for how many years?
Whatever the number is.
Carl?
$90,000 a year.
How much?
$90,000 a year for approximately 8 years.
So
7.5, 8 years.
All right,
90 grand.
are we guaranteed to have the $9,000 a year,
90.
90, for the next 7 years?
Well, the taxes that we will collect, each year, I mean, the board will determine what they wish to levy. They can't levy realistically more than about 2 or 3% than they got the year before. They could levy less, but as long as they levy that, then they will get that. They will have to meet their contractual obligations, including the mortgage. And the money that comes in, if they levy roughly where we have this, is going to be $630,000, $650,000.
And so Libertyville and Lake Forest, every year after they get their first initial payouts, they're gonna raise their money every single year to bleed us out
5%,
5%.
compounded every year.
for 20 years. So what's gonna happen is the whole district's gonna dissolve after a certain amount of time. And the bank or whoever is gonna come and bankrupt us here and take over the building. Is that true?
The district.
Is it possible?
Yeah.
Well,
It's possible an iceberg
Is
can
it a
float down
greater
Lake Michigan
possibility?
too. I mean, there's lots of things that are possible. Probable or
You're
likely?
just sugarcoating it, Brian.
No. You want me to put it in absolute terms? No. As long as the board levies for property, if the board levies no property taxes, you're gonna be in trouble.
why would the board not levy?
You're asking me the possible. I don't know. They have a fit of madness. They're insane. I don't know. As long as they levy for the property taxes and file the levy ordinance before the end of December, you should get property taxes the following year. And the amount you should get, Carl's right, the amount you should get should be about the amount that was received this year times whatever the CPI is, and that changes. That's all over the place. It's gonna be 2.1% next year. So you take what you got this year, multiply by 1.021, and that's what you're gonna get next year, probably. There's some exceptions to that. As long as they levy the taxes, you'll get the property taxes. They'll get the personal property replacement tax, which isn't a lot. What's that, a couple $1,000s?
What is the property tax on this building?
Right now, 0.
Zero. You're a unit of government, you're exempt from property tax.
Okay.
And when will that change? And why?
This will change because we're not fire department anymore.
It's still owned by the district.
It's still owned by us.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get that straight.
Right.
If they start renting it out, that's another story.
Correct, and that's why that agreement to list the property says, okay, we'll get hard here. Do you know what a triple net lease is?
No.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's what, the listing agreement provides for a triple net lease. So if in fact the lease causes an increase in the taxes, whoever's leasing it is gonna have to pay the taxes.
And insurance.
And there's expenses and all that stuff, yeah.
But you better rent it for a lot more than $1,000 a month, what I heard, damn right.
Something just doesn't sound quite right. It doesn't. It sounds like we're gonna be bankrupt in a very short time.
No, the other thing too is, say, right now, when you look at the projections, there are too many unknown factors to really know. They're close. In other words, if you look at what the likely expenses are going to be versus our typical tax collection, they're in the same ballpark. That's about all I can say. They could be $20,000 surplus or $20,000 deficit, because there's too many little pieces we don't know yet. And we won't know those until things like the building being rented out and various other and sundry things like that. We won't know. But we also have $200,000 plus in reserve. So even if for a number of years, if we're spending slightly more than we're taking in, we won't go bankrupt. Ultimately, if you have a situation, and again, this is real, back of the napkin kind of things, if you're trying to hold your tax levy at a 0 or 1% increase, and yet your vendors are charging you 5% more, eventually, over time, you're gonna cross that line, and then start paying off on your reserves. But again, I have to be honest when I look at it and say, there's not right now enough precision or accuracy to say one way or the other. It's in the ballpark. So it could go south on us. On the other hand, it could be,
How long
we're not
does it take
gonna
to go
save any
south?
great money.
If it's gonna possibly go south, how long will that take? Approximately.
Unless something really, really horrible happens, where we have a major debt, which is unlikely, probably what we looked at, year 12, year 13, something like that.
12 or 13?
What are you talking?
No, 12 to 13 years out.
I was gonna say, we're
Can I
past.
ask one
Yeah.
question? Can I ask a question?
12 to 15.
When they sign the contract this is leading into something. When they sign the contract, the fire protection is one thing and the ambulance is two. You mean the price of the ambulance and the price of the fire protection, why couldn't they have done that together instead of separating it? Now, are they gonna raise our taxes, the price on our ambulance service compounded like price on the fire station?
My understanding
It's
is
not
the ambulance contract becomes
Null and void.
null and void.
It's
not
This
separate.
is
It's now, it didn't say that.
That was my
Is it-
It's
understanding.
not, it's one combined contract. It's a contract for fire and ambulance service, along with fire prevention and all the other
Code
services they
enforcement.
provide.
Didn't see that.
So we're gonna start out by paying Libertyville and Lake Forest.
450, right?
How much is the first?
And
A
then
piece?
$450.
Total.
No,
Why?
total $450
And that's for a whole year, or is that
No.
for a month?
for the whole year.
No.
Don't shake your head.
It,
I don't know what the hell's going on
it was a
here.
450
$450
annual, but it's
Jesus.
prorated for the period of 1 October to 30 April. Fortunately, everybody has the same fiscal year, which greatly simplifies
Okay.
things. So my recollection, and that's, I haven't looked this way, my recollection was the annual fee was $450 for the first full year, and that same amount, but prorated for the period of 1 October through April 30th. 1 October of 18 to April 30th of 19, but I don't remember the numbers.
Okay, so
Oh,
for the
you don't know
first
what the
year,
prorate is.
they're getting $225 apiece, and at the end of that year, that $225 apiece is they're gonna add 3%. to that? Is that what I'm,
It's one amount, and it, in
all
fact,
right, 450,000.
right.
Are they gonna, at the end of every year, raise it by 3%?
The first year, Pat, all he did, they played a shell game. And the first year, they gave you that
They don't have it.
entry amount, just like if you bought cable today at the special rate. At the end of that, then it goes back up to the 496, 497, okay? So year 2 is 497, we'll say. And just don't get wrapped up in the 450, that's a shell game. It's just,
Okay.
so you think you got
So
something.
in April, that year starts in April,
Yeah,
and that year will be 496. And the next year will be plus 5%,
whatever that increase
and then
is.
another 5%.
For 20 years, right?
It's
I
not
believe
five.
it's
It's
not an
not
automatic
CPI
5%. There's
or-
a, yeah,
What's that?
it's not an automatic 5%. It's based on CPI.
The same the same percentage that increases your property tax is the same percentage that limits the increase under the contract. That was my insistence. They wanted more, and I said no.
Well, we should listen to someone.
Having to do with the budget, my guys have not been paid. Why? We met with trustee Rogers on Friday, said he was putting the payroll through Friday night. My guys have not been paid. Why?
You haven't paid the employees?
They're required to pay the employees, so that's,
As of today, the payroll company has not been contacted about paying out my employees. Why?
That's between trustee Rogers and the treasurer. And they were
how
handling it.
about this, John? I'll follow up, because the law requires that you be paid.
So Brian, I'm gonna give you 2 days.
Well, wait a minute.
No, I'm just letting you know. I'm gonna give you 2 days, and at that point, there's probably gonna be Illinois Department of Labor contacts that are being made, and
Do
everything else.
I was gonna tell you, if you
So,
don't get it,
All I'm saying is,
contact the
we
Department of
tried
Labor.
to be amicable and everything else with this. Friday, when Tito and I left the meeting with him, it was, I'm calling Tammy tonight, everything's being processed, you'll have it in 2 days. And as I find out this afternoon, early this afternoon, late morning, the payroll company hasn't even been contacted. It's not right. It really is, I mean, these guys
It's illegal.
walked out of there with their heads held high, serving this community till the last second, and withhold the pay to them. It's not right.
It's illegal.
It is
It's
illegal.
illegal,
illegal.
and what you guys did that last day.
I don't, that
I know.
day's come and gone, I don't care about that, I just wanna make sure that my guys are taken care of, and that we can all walk away from this in a respectable manner. And that's all that I'm looking at, so, Brian, if you could
Same
please, like
respectful
I said,
manner
I was
that you
told
were
on Friday, or actually, I'm sorry, we were told on Friday to our faces that it was being processed Friday afternoon, evening, and that it would take 2 days, to get that, and we're now going on a week, tomorrow.
Right, and even if she couldn't do it on Friday, Monday, or Tuesday, there's a 2-day turnaround. I mean, my guys just wanna get paid, like you said, you know, I mean, fire department's closed, we get it, we're done. But, you know, these guys need to get paid, just plain and simple on that one. So-
And before this, obviously, I'm assuming, but from what I'm reading, or my understanding, you guys are not approving the, new budget tonight, but that has to be done and approved before that new budget takes place, because there will be no monies then left to pay.
Well, we have the current budget.
Yeah, the current budget's in
The current
effect.
budget, yes, Brian, but what I'm saying is if they approve a new budget, those monies then, in theory, disappear, correct?
Well, the line items are replaced, but what those line items are, and my recollection is, my direction was ensure that there's sufficient amount under employee salaries to pay. In fact, I think when I did it, I said not only through October, I said through November, because I didn't know when any of this was gonna go.
And like I said, we turned in the numbers and everything else, and I sat down with President Rogers and discussed the numbers with him, which he was in agreement with and fine. And said that when we left that meeting, he was calling the treasurer to have that processed that evening. Like I said, even if it took it into Monday, we're now at Thursday. you know, I'm just looking at have my guys being taken care of for the time they put in. That's it.
Well, weren't they discussing your pay, or did you talk to them about
I
that?
talked to Dan about
Oh,
that.
okay. Cause you weren't here when they were discussing
Yeah, I
it,
was
you
on
weren't at
duty.
that meeting, yeah.
All right, well, since I can't talk to him, you will have to contact him.
Well, we're doing something better than that.
Other comments on the budget?
Well, I mean, even if Tammy's out of town, Carl knows how to do the payroll, he can process it, I mean, it just needs to be done, so it's.
You know, the meeting is important as this. Did you think these two people should be here? I mean, what the heck? So this, you're gonna talk about the budget, but this is gonna get postponed to another time when, Tammy's gonna be here and the president's gonna be here, is that correct?
But I
Now, what
want
the
to
hell are
say,
y'all doing
Mr.
here?
Brown, that you and Rogers did state at the last meeting that you two could handle the special meeting tonight. And it's on video too, so we could even look back. Now, he's not here when he knew that this was going to be tonight, and Brian did state at 6:30. So he knew that this was happening tonight, and he knew Tammy was not gonna be here. So this special meeting, so you know that, Brum.
What do you want me to do?
I'm
about it?
just stating it.
Oh, okay.
I just sent President Rogers both a text and an email telling him that the employees need to be paid. So, I mean, and I CC'd Carl, because his email doesn't show up on my phone.
Yeah, I mean, if Tammy's not available to actually do the mechanics of it, Dan approves it, I will do it immediately.
And Brian, just so you know, the last thing I was told by President Rogers was that the officer stipends that I gave out to my guys for the time, effort, and energy that they put in was to be reduced by, what was it, 9/10 or something like that? And that was based on your recommendation.
Okay, so when we got your sheet, and someone explained that it was for the period, the hourly rates, the call rates were for calls actually performed from December 15th of 2017 through September 30th of.
I actually ran them through September 30th.
Right, September 30th.
Correct.
And I said they're entitled to all that. They work, they're entitled by law. This is by law. So that's that. Then we went and clarified the stipends. The stipends are annual stipends. Well, if you work from September 17th of 2018, even go to that gives you 9.5 months. So 9.5 months out of 12 months, whatever that, I think I calculated it.
Brian, that's fine, I just wanted to make sure
Yeah, that was me.
that you did go ahead and state that.
I did. And in fact, I pulled out the calculator because I don't know what 9.5 out of 12 is. And I
Sure.
calculated it to like 5 decimal points. Because it's money. You know.
What's gonna be accomplished here tonight?
Well, are there any more comments on the budget?
Right, we
That's
need to
the final
focus.
comment that I had, just to make sure that got taken care of before a budget was passed, so that those funds are available to go ahead and make that final payout.
Yeah. That will be taken care of.
But nothing's gonna be passed tonight, correct?
No.
No, we are doing what the law requires, is that we have this public hearing so that you can speak to the
Right.
tentative budget. Typically, boards will actually vote and pass the ordinance at the same meeting, but the law doesn't require that, and since, President Rogers wasn't here today, I thought it would be wisest to postpone that vote.
The whole meeting should have been postponed so that all four,
Well, this
People.
meeting, the problem with this public hearing was that it has to be,
30-day pass.
it has to be, right, you have to notify it in the newspaper 30 days ahead of time and post the budget. And you have to probably start that whole clock over
They're doing
again.
everything that they need to do.
by law.
By law, they truly
Yes,
are doing everything what they're
this is
supposed to
really
do.
just to fulfill a legal requirement. And, well, and to give you a voice. Obviously, there'll be a meeting, at which point that will be on the agenda, and there will be public comment allowed on that, that meeting under the normal rules. So again, you will have, always have an opportunity to speak your piece. So do we have any other comments on the budget? Yeah, hearing none, I guess do we need to vote to close the hearing?
No, you just,
Just close the
you
hearing.
you
We'll
declare comment over
declare the comment.
6:59. Hold on, I gotta take notes.
No, I guess, Brian, on the formality, do we, just to open the meeting, the regular part of the meeting for
Well-
public comment now?
What you do now, we noted, we opened the hearing at 6:31, we closed the hearing at 6:59. Now you just open the regular meeting for public comment.
Right, so we're gonna open the regular meeting for regular public comment,
You have any public comment?
which would be the
Follow the
comment.
rules.
Yeah, follows the rules, but also can be on pretty much any appropriate topic where the comments before really should have been on the budget.
I think we did that
Oh,
all.
well, I have a question. These are for new things. I was thinking about, can we get our t-shirts? Can you guys put that in the next meeting that we are allowed to have our t-shirts, that have our logos on it? I know the district paid for it, but,
Are you talking the ones that are upstairs?
yeah, t-shirts, sweatshirts.
Well, I think that's all, at the next meeting, what we call it, it will include declaring surplus equipment and materials in the station. And at that time, once we declare it surplus, then we can make decisions on where it
Otherwise, you're
goes.
gonna be dealing with Department of Labor. I don't wanna do.
No, and that's what we're trying to avoid. And like
I
I said,
want the guys to
These
get-
files
they're
in
entitled
here,
to it by law. You're right.
Can we meet up sometime on Friday, get these?
Call Tammy.
These are just files from our guys.
Out on Friday.
Yeah.
Should've had it by
Yeah.
now.
I'm not thinking it's night, but-
No, give me a call when you're available, and one of us will meet you over here, and you can either take them, or we'll go through them, whatever you want to do.
All right.
Any other comments?
No.
Okay.
We'll see.
Can I have a motion?
I make a motion to adjourn.
At 7:02. I will second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Who made it?
I made the motion, I second it. It's 7:02.
Seconded.
Hi, buddy.